The whole spat between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage has actually hurt reform, I think, a lot more than people think. Because it all goes back to that time where Elon Musk comes out and says Farage isn't the man to lead reform. I think it should be Rupert Lowe who leads reform. He should be the one to lead it. And if you remember back to that time, Rupert Lowe had a lot of support. I mean, a lot of support from grassroots reform people. And if you look at what has been happening since this whole, internal fight started between the two, there have been a lot of people expressing their dissatisfaction with, of course, Farage. We talk about the secret talks they've had with Dominic Cummings. Is Cummings about to start working with reform? Who knows? Is he about to maybe even go off and start this, quote, the startup party with Rupert Lowe? Who knows? However, we have now another twist in this tale. Yes, we have got another twist in this tale, because now out of nowhere, it is now being reported that the Tories have held secret talks about trying to bring Rupert Lowe into the party. Good idea, bad idea, probably a very bad idea, to be honest, because I don't think Rupert Lowe's really going to play ball with Kimi Badenoch. And of course, if there is another leadership contest, guess who's going to go for a bite at that apple? Absolutely Rupert Lowe. That torpedoes Robert Jerrick, or that would be a very hard fight for Robert Jerrick to fight then, won't it? Oh boy, but yeah, these are some potential fireworks down the line if that does indeed happen. So we're going to talk about this more, but this is yet another twist and turn in this huge tale, to be honest, this huge saga that's going on in reform. But it's fascinating to watch and see this party just fall apart seemingly at the seams. But there you go. But again, it's typical Farage, So as always, before we go on into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and of course, subscribe button down below. Of course, there is a link to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below. And of course, as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel that way. And of course, 'tis Wednesday, so there will be a Pony Club video as well for all you Patreon members, and of course, you Pony Club member supporters as well. So let's go on into this, because the London Economic is the only people to report about this. But I think this is another huge twist in all this. I think this is a massive twist in this tale. Massive twist in this. So the Tories now reportedly holding secret talks to bring Rupert Lowe into the party. So is it defection season already? It had only been just a little more grey area, of course, for Rupert Lowe. Following his now suspension from reform earlier this month. However, it is now claimed that the firebrand politician is weighing up a sensational parliamentary switch. It would be really bad if this ends up happening like today, and then I know I'm doing this today, and he does it in like the next couple of hours before we do this. Be incredibly frustrating, but there you go. Hey, these things can happen. Who knows? So, according now to report from The Sun, Lowe has now already had in-person meetings with two senior Tory MPs, and he's understood that the party now, turfed out of the government last year, see him as an ideal candidate to boost their electoral chances. Really? An ideal candidate to boost their electoral chances? Or just a future trouble source in disguise? I think a future trouble source. But please do let me know down in the comments because I think the chaos he will bring into the party with him. He's very, very much outspoken ideas. He's even further to the right of someone like Robert Jerrick. If things go as they are reported, the Kimi Badnock is going to possibly be quite probably, depending on how bad the results are, the local elections, and they are looking quite bad, she could be very easily forced out at the next Tory party conference in October. If she is, you get another leadership contest, and absolutely Rupert Lowe runs. And I think in that contest between him and Jerrick, I think Rupert Lowe wins. And then you end up having Rupert Lowe, leader of the Tories. So, a civil war has, of course, emerged within Reform of the last few weeks. After negatively, of course, referring to the party leader, Nigel Farage, as messianic, he was then suspended the day after following the allegations of intimidatory behaviour towards Reform chair Zia Youssef. This spat, of course, has now seen Rupert Lowe lose the whip, meaning that Reform are now down to just 4 MPs in Parliament. The same, of course, as around the Green Party. It seems no amicable reason can, of course, be found after Farage claimed that there would be, quote, no way back for Lowe. And it is not just Lowe that has been jettisoned. There has been a lot of grassroots activists, people in charge of local parties who have been replaced by more Farage loyalists. You've seen Reform local groups disbanded only to be reformed again by, Farage loyalists. There's a lot more going on in the internal party to try and purge as many of these, I don't know, Lowites, I suppose we would call them, from the party. So make no mistake, there is no way back. I think Farage is absolutely right there because he does not want him back. This Farage does not tolerate dissent. And imagine Farage trying to control a much larger party when party management, as we saw during the Conservative years, quite important. Quite important indeed. So if Reform does get bigger, that only creates more problems for Farage. Only creates more problems for him, not less. So, will Reform of the Tories become one? Absolutely not. So, of course, any possible defection would also raise the possibility of Reform and Conservatives, of course, working together in the future. Absolutely not. If Lowe becomes leader, which again is every possibility that again, if he does join the Tories, he will absolutely go for that leadership position. He's not wanting to wait on the back benches, that's for sure. Both, of course, could be an electoral pact or even full-on merger of the two parties have been floated before, with Nigel Farage, of course, touted as a figurehead. Not if Lowe's leader of the party. Don't be fooled into that. Like I say, when we've been through these things before on Conservative Home, when they've asked, with articles written by people by Reform and by the Conservatives, they want very, very different things. Very different things indeed. It would not work. And even if they did somehow get through an election, that pact would not survive being government. It would not survive government at all. They would not survive a coalition. However, Lowe, of course, could become the very first serving MP to switch from Reform to the Conservatives. The reverse, of course, happened very previously when Lee Anderson changed his allegiance just last year. Perhaps the differences aren't all that difficult to overcome. They are very, very, very much so. We've seen that countless times when we've gone over articles in Conservative Home. Conservative voters, or at least the ones that are left, will not vote for Reform. Like I say, they would much rather either A, stay at home or vote Lib Dem, and those Reform voters, well, they ain't voting Conservative at all. So the likelihood of a merger or a pact, not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. But of course, again, potentially an interesting twist. What if Rupert Lowe does defect to the Conservatives? Well, that would be quite seismic, I think. That would be quite seismic. And Lowe would bring, as we've seen, probably a lot of support from Reform. like I say, he has a lot of grassroots support. He has a lot of support in the party. They would probably join the Conservative Party, and then, of course, there wouldn't be too surprising if things carry out as we've seen. Kimmy Badenoch maybe loses position in October, maybe later in 2026. Rupert Lowe takes over. He's now leader of the Conservative Party. I could see that happening. I could conceivably see that happening in the Conservative Party. And at that point, there ain't going to be a merger or a pact between Reform and the Tories. That's for certain. But as always, we'll see you all next time. And like I say, let me know what you think down to this. Do you think Lowe will defect? I don't know. Could be 50-50, to be honest. Could be 50-50. But we'll see what happens. So as always, thank you very much. We'll see you all next time.